History often highlights pharaohs and grand Egyptian monuments, but it is the labor of ancient Egyptian peasants that sustained Egypt's greatness. From dawn to dusk, they worked in the fields, built temples, and shaped the empire's foundation. But their lives were not just about work. They found joy in festivals, rituals, and the simple pleasures of hunting, fishing, and river games. The rhythm of their days was dictated by the Nile, their traditions rooted in balance and harmony. So today, let's step into the world of ancient Egyptian peasants, the hardworking hands that built a civilization. From sunrise to sunset, the life of an ancient Egyptian peasant was defined by repetitive yet essential work. The day typically began with early rising as the cool morning hours provided a break from the heat that later engulfed the fields. Peasants worked long hours, engaged in tasks that required both physical strength and practical knowledge passed down through generations. The primary responsibility of most peasants was farming. They spent countless hours plowing the fields with simple yet effective ox-drawn plows. This process prepared the soil for planting, requiring a steady hand and careful observation of the land. After plowing, seeds were sown in neat rows or furrows. Care had to be taken to ensure the seeds were well spaced for optimal growth. Seasonal irrigation, either from the Nile's overflow or through primitive canal systems, was crucial to sustain the crops. Harvesting was another critical task. When the crops matured, communities came together to bring in the harvest. This collective effort involved cutting, gathering, and sometimes threshing the grains. The success of the harvest determined how much food was available not just for the family, but sometimes for the community, or even as contributions to the state during times of public work. In addition to farming, many ancient Egyptian peasants found their working days divided between agricultural tasks and state-sponsored labor. During the months when the fields were underwater due to the annual inundation, the government organized communal labor known as corvée duty. During this time, peasants were employed on projects that ranged from building temples and pyramids to repairing irrigation systems and roads. Even though these projects were demanding, they provided a sense of pride and belonging, as every stone set in a temple or pyramid contributed to the legacy of the Egyptian civilization. While the state rewarded these workers with small compensations, often in the form of grain rations or modest gifts, the true reward laid in the idea that their labor was a building block of one of history's most impressive cultures. Now, though agriculture dominated daily life, many peasants also practiced various crafts. They made pottery, wove textiles, and even engaged in simple metalwork. Pottery was not merely a household necessity for storing water and food, it was also an art form. Clay pots, urns, and other vessels were made using time-tested techniques passed from one generation to the next. Weaving was another craft essential to peasant life. Flax harvested from local fields was spun into linen, creating clothing and textiles that were both durable and comfortable. These skills were typically learned by working alongside older family members or artisans in the community. They were more than just work. They were expressions of the community's creative spirit and a means to preserve ancient traditions. Also, the social and economic fabric of ancient Egypt was interwoven with local trade. Small items such as woven textiles, pottery, or crafted tools were exchanged for other essentials or traded in nearby towns. Trades of this sort were usually learned informally. Children observed their elders and gradually became skilled in the techniques that had sustained their families for centuries. So even without formal schooling, there was a system of apprenticeship in every household and community workshop. This transmission of practical knowledge was crucial. It ensured that the skills necessary for survival, creativity, and cultural expression were not lost with time. Moreover, the diet of ancient Egyptian peasants was modest and based on the natural bounty of the land. Most of their sustenance came from the crops they grew, with wheat and barley forming the cornerstone of their meals. So throughout the day, they relied on simple, nourishing foods that provided energy for their long hours of labor. Bread served as the primary food source. Made from wheat or emmer, a type of ancient grain, bread was baked in communal ovens or small clay ovens at home. Its texture was coarse, and it was usually accompanied by dips or stews made of vegetables or legumes. Alongside bread, beer was a constant. Far from being a luxurious beverage, beer was a staple drink for ancient Egyptian peasants. It was brewed from barley and was often safer to drink than water because of the fermentation process that eliminated harmful bacteria. Both adults and children consumed beer with different levels of fermentation. In addition to bread and beer, peasants ate a variety of vegetables such as onions, garlic, lentils, and cucumbers. These vegetables provided essential nutrients that complemented their carbohydrate-rich staple foods. And because raising livestock was expensive and grazing lands were limited, meat was not a common part of the daily diet. Instead, meat or fish was enjoyed on special occasions or during festivals. When available, beef, often boiled or roasted, and fish from the Nile added much-needed protein to their diets. The way in which food was consumed also reflected the simplicity of Egyptian peasant life. Most meals were eaten using the fingers, and food was served on basic clay dishes. While the wealthier classes ate on fine bronze, silver, or even gold plates, the peasants' everyday tableware was humble. Despite these modest means, every meal was an opportunity to gather with family and friends, share stories, and strengthen community bonds. Similarly, the living conditions of ancient Egyptian peasants were modest compared to the grandeur of palaces and temples. However, their homes were practical, community-oriented, and designed to meet the needs of everyday life. These dwellings were typically constructed of mud brick, which was plentiful and suitable for the region's climate. A typical peasant home was simple in design, usually featured a courtyard, sometimes surrounded by one or two small rooms. The layout was both functional and resourceful. The open courtyard served as a space for daily activities like cooking, eating, and even sleeping during the warmer months. Roofs were often flat, providing extra space for relaxation or additional sleeping quarters during hot nights. So despite their small size, these houses were built with care and reflected the resourcefulness of the people who constructed them. Inside, the furniture was simple and utilitarian. Simple mats or reed baskets replaced expensive furnishings, and storage was found in handmade clay jars or baskets. Every item in the home was built to serve a purpose, and the quality of everyday objects reflected the practicality and frugality of peasant life. Also, for ancient Egyptian peasants, community was everything. Villages were tight-knit, and each person's fate was intertwined with that of their neighbors, which means daily life was not an isolated struggle but a collective effort. Neighbors shared tools, helped each other during harvest, and gathered together during times of difficulty or celebration. Social events such as market days or religious festivals provided much-needed breaks from the rigor of outdoor labor and were opportunities for communal bonding, whereas public spaces such as local markets or small shrines functioned as meeting points where villagers exchanged news and offered support to one another. So even though the material conditions were humble, the communal spirit was rich. People recognized that their individual success was a reflection of their community's well-being, and their interdependence created strong bonds that helped everyone navigate life's uncertainties. Moreover, religion permeated every aspect of ancient Egyptian life, and for the peasants, it was a constant source of guidance and comfort. Their belief system was centered on the concept of ma'at, the idea of balance, order, and truth. This principle was not only a philosophical ideal, but also a practical guide that influenced daily routines and ethical decisions. For the peasants, living in ma'at meant following a way of life that balanced labor with celebration, individual needs with communal obligations, and the practical with the spiritual. The idea of harmony was evident in every aspect of their lives, from the orderly rows in their fields to the collective spirit during communal feasts and festivals. And by embracing this principle, the peasants believed that they contributed to the stability and well-being of society as a whole. Also, the gods and goddesses of ancient Egypt were respected by people of all classes. However, for the peasants, the deities were less distant figures and more immediate protectors of their daily lives. They believed that the gods controlled the forces of nature, which in turn governed the success of their harvests and the overall prosperity of the community. Thus, offerings, prayers, and small rituals were performed in the home or at local shrines to secure divine favor. These acts were simple yet deeply significant. They underscored the peasants' dependence on the unpredictable natural world and their respect for the cosmic order. Religious festivals provided important breaks from the rigors of daily labor. During these celebrations, the community offered thanks to the gods and prayed for bountiful harvests and good fortune. These events were marked not by lavish ceremonies, but by genuine expressions of gratitude and unity. Simple rituals accompanied by songs, dances, and communal feasts helped to reinforce the shared belief in ma'at and the need for balance in all things. Thus, even in moments of celebration, the practical lessons learned from the land and its rhythms remained at the core of the experience. So in many ways, religion for the ancient Egyptian peasant was a way to interpret and deal with the uncertainties of life. By recognizing a higher order and striving to maintain it through every action, they found purpose in both their labor and their leisure. Their spirituality was woven into the fabric of their everyday lives, making the pursuit of balance a constant and reassuring presence. Now, after a long day's work, the end of the day was a time for relaxation and connection. Simple pleasures like gathering in the courtyard, sharing food, or listening to folk tales provided much-needed relief. In an environment where hard work was constant, these moments of rest helped preserve physical energy and emotional resilience. Peasants also found joy in outdoor activities including hunting, fishing, and various river games. They hunted water birds and desert animals, catching gazelles, oxen, hares, and ostriches using bows, arrows, lassos, and throwing sticks. Fishing was another favorite pastime made convenient by their proximity to the Nile, canals, and lakes. Thus, after finishing their daily tasks, they would head to the river where fish were abundant to chat with their neighbors and collect fish for their families. River games, particularly boat racing, were also popular. Competitors started in the same direction with 2 or 3 men in each boat using poles to navigate. Victory was celebrated by knocking opponents off their boats and flipping them over, making it one of the most thrilling activities. So, the daily life of ancient Egyptian peasants, though simple on the surface, was rich with meaning and purpose. Their existence was a delicate balance of work and rest, labor and celebration. Through agriculture, craftsmanship, communal celebrations, and the steady transmission of traditions, these people not only fed their nation, but also nourished its soul. Now, what are your thoughts about ancient Egyptian peasants? Share with us in the comments section below. Also, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more interesting content.